Adam Burke is joining me now. He is the managing editor at VSiN, the sports betting network, 24/7 broadcast network dedicated exclusively to sports betting. And you can hear VSiN on Fox Sports 1230, The Gambler, this afternoon and throughout the day as well. VSiN.com. Adam Burke on Twitter at Skating Tripods. Adam, great to have you back on the Scott Sands Show.
Good to be with you, Scott. It's football season. We're all excited.
I love it. How'd you do last night? Did you have any bets on the game last night?
No, nothing last night. We're in such a frenzy over at VSiN.com, making sure all of our content gets out and all of that. Honestly, I kind of prioritize tonight's college football games as opposed to looking at Thursday night NFL games. So,
nice.
We got over 50 combined college football and NFL pieces over at VSiN.com on a weekly basis. And being the managing editor, kind of directing traffic,
right.
It's a busy time, but we'll settle into the rhythm for sure.
I hit a Derrick Henry anytime touchdown bet last night, but I lost my other parlay. So I broke even. That's not bad. I'll take that as a win. By the way, you talk about all the content for a limited time. You can get the first month of your VSiN Pro subscription for just $9.99, and that includes access to VSiN's 24/7 channel, special betting guides, pro betting tips, and more. It's great content. VSiN.com/subscribe for more. As you look at the college football lineup, the big game here that everybody's going to watch, I think, is Michigan-Texas at noon tomorrow. How do you like that lineup? That's going to be a big battle between the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yeah, it really is. And it's an interesting game for a variety of different reasons. I mean, first of all, we have a pretty big spread and a pretty small total. Texas 7-point favorite in this game, total of 42. Generally speaking, you see some of the sharper, more influential bettors in the market gravitate towards big underdogs in games with low totals. Why? Because points are at a premium. Points are precious. So, this game was over a touchdown. It was 7.5, 8 early on in the week. Now coming down to 7 with a little bit of Michigan love. I don't know if it's because people like Michigan. I think it's more of a math play because you do have, the big spread and the low total. But also, Michigan's defense should be able to slow down Texas to some degree in this game. Michigan's defense over the last several years, when they've stepped up and played Ohio State or other really athletic teams, they've done pretty well. Texas is a pretty athletic, very good offensive team, but Michigan has the opportunity to slow them down. I think the concern for everybody, understandably so, with Davis Morgan in this Michigan offense, what do they do against Texas? Because you can't just run against this Texas front. They're going to have to find ways to throw the football, and I don't know if they're going to find success with that because it seems like the transition from J.J. McCarthy to the other guys is going to be a major work in progress. So I get where this line movement is coming from. I personally have the game Texas -5, but I think the under is probably the way to look in this one because I think there's a very realistic possibility that Texas maybe wins this game 21-14, 21-10, something like that.
Obviously around here, everybody loves Michigan or Ohio State. I'm an SEC guy at heart. I'm cheering for the Rockets, of course, tomorrow too as a Met guy, but I'm an Alabama Crimson Tide guy. It's not any animosity towards Michigan after last year in the playoffs by any means. I think Texas is the better team under Sark. He's done an amazing job with that team, and I'm going to say hook 'em horns. I think Texas wins. I think 7 is a lot of points to give up, but you're right. I think Michigan's defense is what's going to keep them in the game.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. And by the way, your Crimson Tide, man, did they look good last week. And I realized it was Western Kentucky, and they should look good again this week against South Florida. But that's a team that I like, 14-1 to win the national championship. Jalen Milroe, 14-15-1 to win the Heisman. Kalen DeBoer is a dude. He is a legitimate top-5 coach in college football. And I think with the most talented roster he's ever had, he's going to do some special things down there in Tuscaloosa, not only this year, but going forward as well.
Yeah, I don't know if they're a national championship contender this year. I think they make the playoffs, but, man, they got to go through the gauntlet of, like, Ole Miss and Missouri and Oklahoma and LSU and Georgia, of course. So it's going to be a tough run to get there, but I do like what Kalen DeBoer has done so far with that team.
Yeah, I mean, the expanded playoff opens up a lot of opportunities, right? So it'll be interesting, especially if you're an SEC or a Big Ten team. Now you have the luxury of being able to lose a couple of games and still be one of the 12 playoff teams.
We're talking to Adam Burke. You can find him on X, formerly Twitter, at Skating Tripods. He's the managing editor at VSiN, which you can hear on Fox Sports 1230, The Gambler. And again, for a limited time, get the first month of your VSiN Pro subscription, just $9.99. It's VSiN.com/subscribe. So let's look ahead to NFL. NFL Week 1. I mean, on the college side, a lot of great games, sure, like Michigan, Texas. But it's still kind of it's Cupcake Week 2 again for a lot of the bigger schools as they kind of ease into before the conference schedule comes up. But the NFL, I mean, they dive right into things. What are you looking at this weekend for the NFL?
Yeah, there's a few things I'm looking at here. I mean, I'm coming around on really liking Philadelphia tonight. It just seems like Green Bay, I saw the report, I think it was from Jonathan Jones on Twitter, that Green Bay is staying like an hour and a half or 2 hours away from the stadium based on traffic. I think there's just going to be an annoyance, a collection of annoyances for both of these teams here. But I think Philadelphia, based on how last season ended, I think they're the team that maybe is a little bit more focused through all of those distractions. So I do like the Eagles tonight. Anything under -3, I think, is worthy of a look there with them. I also really like them long-term to be the number 1 seed of the NFC. I think that's plus 500. So I think they're going to be really, really good this year. But a couple of other games that I'm really interested in. Look, I mean, I look at this Browns game with Dallas and Cleveland, and I realize I'm going to upset a lot of people here, but I don't understand Cleveland taking money in this game, up to a 2.5-point favorite, where Deshaun Watson hasn't played a game in over 300 days. They have major issues at the tackle position. Obviously the skill position guys are great, but I think that C.J. Stroud and the Texans exposed a weakness in that defense in the playoff game last year, and Dallas has the ability, if they protect Dak Prescott, to go vertical a little bit, and that's what burned Cleveland last year in the postseason. So I think Dallas plus 2.5 is the play in that game.
Yeah, and I mean, it is Dallas. It is Dallas. Is this the year Dak Prescott is able to finally do something with that team?
I mean, Dak Prescott's done a lot of some things in the regular season. The problem is, the playoffs and some of the marquee games that they have. That's when it becomes a little bit more challenging for him. But look, I mean, the thing about the NFL that people need to understand is it's very reactionary, right? There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions all of the time. And it was all bad news for Dallas in the preseason, right? The Dak Prescott contract, the CeeDee Lamb contract, Jerry Jones kind of making it seem like, well, we don't owe you, you owe us kind of thing. Just a lot of bad vibes around Dallas. But once the season gets going, I think they'll be just fine. So I don't agree with the line move here. And I think another one, Houston and Indianapolis, where I'm not in a rush to take the Colts by any means, but Houston won the offseason, right? They bring in Stephon Diggs. They bring in some other guys around C.J. Stroud. They bring in Joe Mixon at running back. They improve the defense. They're still only a 2.5-point favorite against Indianapolis, where nobody knows what Anthony Richardson is going to be. I think that line is pretty telling there for that AFC South matchup at Lucas Oil tomorrow.
Yeah,
Sunday.
I think the Colts fans are optimistic about Richardson, but we really don't know what he brings to the table. And I'm not a big fan of you mentioned Deshaun Watson and the Browns. I'm not a big fan of that deal either. They're overpaying for a guy that we really don't know what he can do for the team.
Yeah, look, I mean, there's, a lot of that, right? I mean, in the NFL, if you don't have a superstar quarterback, you don't really have much of anything. So for GMs, they're willing to kind of take those chances and, cost a lot of guys their jobs in the end. But if Richardson can be a guy, he's a special type of player. The Cam Newton comps, I get it. He's a huge dude. He can run. He's a downhill type of runner. He's a little bit erratic, but he's got a big arm too. So if he lives up to that potential, and it's a big if, then all of a sudden you have to look at the Colts differently, not only this season, but going forward as well.
We're talking to Adam Burke, VSiN.com. You can find him on X on Twitter at Skating Tripods. You mentioned the Eagles and the NFC long-term for the season. I've got a parlay for division winners with the Eagles in the East, Lions in the North, and the Bengals in the AFC North, paying almost plus 1,000 on that. Let's talk about the Lions. I'm not a Lions guy. I didn't grow up a Lions guy. I'm from the South, so I was a Saints guy. But, man, Dan Campbell makes me want to run through walls.
So I will preface what I'm about to say by saying that I like the Rams long-term for this season. I think the Rams have the opportunity to beat the 49ers in the NFC West division. But Detroit is a team that I love for this season. They only play 3 games outdoors for the entire year, and 2 of them should be in decent weather. They play Green Bay in early November at Lambeau. They play out at Levi Stadium in Santa Clara against the 49ers on Monday night in late December. They have 1 game. It's at Soldier Field in December that could have really bad weather. But also, Caleb Williams, we don't know how he's going to do with bad weather. So Detroit's schedule is remarkably favorable for them, especially for, a first-place type of schedule, and really favorable for a quarterback in Jared Goff, who it's well documented, he's not good outside. He's not good if it's not perfect outside. If there's a little bit of a sprinkle, he struggles a ton. But they only play 3 games outdoors. So everything is set up really well for the Lions to have a very strong season. And I even took Jared Goff 40-1 to win MVP over the summer. The price has gone down now since then. It's in the 25, 28-1 range, I think. But he has a chance at a huge year with these weapons and with 14 of his 17 games being played in a dome.
Got a lot of Steeler fans around here, too, Adam. How do you like the Steelers?
I hate them because I'm a Cleveland guy. So there's that. Look, I think it's kind of a blessing in disguise that, maybe Russell Wilson isn't able to go this week and it does end up being Justin Fields, because I think Fields gives this offense a much higher ceiling, particularly because of what Art Smith wants to do running the football, and having a mobile quarterback can kind of help with that. At the same time, Fields is inaccurate. He's got some decent touch on the deep ball, but short and intermediate stuff he really struggles with. Pittsburgh does not have enough guys that create separation at the wide receiver position. And also their schedule is brutal. They're a dog here this week against Atlanta, 3.5-point underdog in the Art Smith revenge game. But after the bye week, they play at Washington, they play Philadelphia, they play all 6 of their AFC North games. There's a running joke, but it's an impressive stat about Mike Tomlin that he's never had a losing season. And we joke about it all the time on VSiN, like, oh, have you ever heard? Because everyone talks about it. I think this is the first losing season in the Mike Tomlin era for the Steelers.
Wow, that's big. You may be right. They're going to have to get their stuff together at some point. Adam Burke, he is the managing editor at VSiN, VSiN.com. You can find him on X, on Twitter at Skating Tripods. VSiN is the sports betting network, the first 24/7 broadcast network dedicated exclusively to sports betting, which you can hear on Fox Sports 1230, The Gambler, and learn more at VSiN.com. In fact, right now, today, for the first, get the first month of your VSiN Pro subscription, just $9.99, VSiN.com/subscribe. Adam, thank you for your time. Great to have you on. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, Scott. Have a good one.